I still remember the sound my body made when I hit the floor. Not a thud exactly. More like a crack, then a slide, then silence. The kind of silence that only exists for a split second before the laughing starts. My sister Vanessa's voice was still ringing in my ears from seconds before. "Get off the table. Eat on the floor," she had screamed, her hand already on my shoulder, already shoving, already deciding that I didn't belong at that table with the rest of them. And the room erupted. Not just her friends. Not just her husband smirking into his wine glass. But my parents too. My own mother covered her mouth with a napkin, trying to hide the smile spreading across her face. My father didn't even bother hiding his. He threw his head back and laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever witnessed. Like his youngest daughter crashing onto the hardwood floor was premium entertainment. I sat there for a moment, my palms stinging from the impact, my hip already throbbing where I'd landed. The chair I'd been sitting on was now tipped over beside me, one leg pointing at the ceiling like a dead insect. And all I could think about was how many times I'd sat at this table feeling exactly like that chair. Useless. In the way. Something to be kicked aside when it no longer served a purpose. But what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about myself. I looked up at Vanessa. She was standing over me with her arms crossed, that familiar smug expression plastered across her face. The golden child. The one who could do no wrong. The one who got the private school tuition while I worked double shifts to pay for community college. The one who got the down payment for her house as a wedding gift while I was told there was simply nothing left for me. She was wearing a silk blouse I had actually paid for 3 Christmases ago, back when I still believed gifts could buy love. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Enjoy this dinner," I said. My voice came out quiet but steady. Calmer than I expected. Calmer than anyone expected, apparently, because a few heads turned. "It's the last one you'll ever take from me." The laughter didn't stop immediately. It faded, like a song winding down. Vanessa snorted and rolled her eyes. "Oh please, drama queen. Get up. You're embarrassing yourself." But I wasn't embarrassed. I was done. Something had clicked inside me when my body hit that floor. Something that had been building for 23 years finally locked into place with a sound only I could hear. The sound of a door closing. The sound of a switch flipping. The sound of a person who had finally, completely, irreversibly stopped caring. I stood up slowly, brushed off my clothes like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just been physically assaulted in front of 8 people who allegedly loved me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The screen was already lit up with a notification I'd been waiting for all week. One tap. That's all it took. One tap on a confirmation button I had set up 3 months ago when I first started planning my exit from this family. No scene. No warning. No dramatic speech. Just the soft click of my thumb against glass, and then the phone went back into my pocket. I grabbed my bag from the hallway. I could hear murmuring behind me. Someone said my name. I think it was my mother. Maybe. It didn't matter anymore. Nothing they said mattered anymore because the paperwork had already been filed. The accounts had already been flagged. The lawyer had already been given instructions. And the truth about what this family had been hiding had already been packaged up with a bow, addressed to every single person who needed to see it. I walked out the front door without looking back. The night air hit my face and I took a deep breath. It tasted different than it had when I arrived. Cleaner. Fresher. Like oxygen after years of suffocation. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset. Because I was waiting. By morning, I had 73 missed calls. The sun wasn't even fully up yet, and my phone was vibrating off the nightstand, notifications stacking up like bricks in a wall. Text messages. Voicemails. Emails. A cascade of desperation flooding every channel of communication I had. The first voicemail was from my father. His voice was shaking. Not angry. Scared. "What did you do?" "The bank accounts are frozen. All of them. The business account. The personal account. Everything. Call me back immediately." I deleted it. The second was from my mother. She was crying. "Please, baby, whatever this is, we can fix it. Just come home." I deleted that one too. The third was from Vanessa. She wasn't crying. She was screaming. You psychotic little freak. You think you can mess with my life? With my family's life? You're nothing. You've always been nothing. And when I find out what you did, I will destroy you. I saved that one. Not because it hurt me. Because I wanted to listen to it again later. After everything was finished. I wanted to hear the exact moment she still believed she had power over me. The exact moment before she understood how wrong she was. By afternoon, the real panic had set in. I was getting calls from numbers I didn't recognize. The family lawyer. My father's business partner. A woman who identified herself as a forensic accountant asking very specific questions about transactions I had flagged. The doors were closing. One by one. Each call was another lock clicking into place. Another exit sealed shut. And here's what nobody understood yet. This wasn't just about freezing bank accounts. This was about exposure. See, for years I had been the invisible daughter. The one they ignored. The one they talked over at dinner. The one whose bedroom was converted into a home gym while I was away at college because they assumed I wouldn't come back. But invisibility has its advantages. When no one sees you, they don't watch what they say around you. They don't hide their paperwork. They don't password protect their computers. They don't notice you standing in doorways, listening. They don't notice you taking pictures of documents left on kitchen counters. They don't notice you at all. And I had been paying attention for a very, very long time. The truth was bigger than I initially realized. It always is, isn't it? You start digging into one small suspicion, and suddenly you're uncovering things that make your stomach turn. Things that don't just ruin reputations. Things that send people to prison. My father's business wasn't just successful. It was built on fraud. Embezzlement from employee pension funds. Fake invoices. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands that I had traced back through 3 years of tax returns he thought were hidden. He had been stealing from his own workers. People who trusted him. People with families. People who had no idea their retirement accounts were slowly being drained into my sister's shopping addiction and my mother's real estate hobby. And Vanessa. Perfect Vanessa. The one who pushed me off my chair like I was nothing. She wasn't just cruel. She was complicit. She had signed documents. She had opened accounts in her own name to help launder money. She knew. Of course she knew. The golden child wasn't just protected. She was a partner in crime, literally and legally intertwined with everything rotting at the core of this family. I had discovered it all 8 months ago. The first document I found was an accident. A bank statement left open on my father's laptop while he was in the bathroom. I sat down to check my email and saw numbers that didn't make sense. Transfers that shouldn't exist. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The next day, I opened a safety deposit box. I started making copies. I hired a private investigator with money I saved from years of working 3 jobs because my parents refused to help with anything. I found a lawyer who specialized in financial crimes. A woman named Diane who looked at my evidence with widening eyes and said, "Do you understand what you have here?" I understood perfectly. By evening on that first day, the whispers had started. My phone was still ringing, but now it was different. Now it was friends of the family. Distant relatives. People from the country club where my mother played tennis. The news was spreading like a virus. Someone had reported suspicious activity. The IRS had been contacted. An audit was imminent. Names were being whispered in rooms I wasn't in, but I could feel the vibrations of it all like an earthquake only I had predicted. And by night, I was sitting at my small kitchen table in my apartment across town, eating a bowl of soup, watching my phone light up with the 74th missed call. This time it was Vanessa again. I let it ring. I finished my soup. I wiped my mouth with a napkin and thought about that dinner. The one where I hit the floor. The one where they all laughed. I thought about the same table, in that same house, with that same family. But this time, the scene was different. This time, no one was laughing. This time, they were all sitting in silence, staring at papers they couldn't explain. Staring at accounts they couldn't access. Staring at a future that had suddenly collapsed into a pile of legal documents and criminal exposure. And then I thought about what was coming next. Because freezing the accounts was just the opening move. The evidence packages hadn't even been delivered yet. The authorities hadn't even knocked on the door. The real destruction was still hours away, building like a wave out at sea, invisible to everyone except me. What my sister didn't know yet, what none of them knew yet, was that this was only the very beginning of what I had planned. The first domino in a chain that would reach every corner of their lives until nothing was left standing. I set my spoon down and smiled. For the first time in 23 years, I was in control. For the first time in 23 years, they were the ones on the floor. And I wasn't done pushing. The next 48 hours unfolded like a film I had already directed in my head 100 times. At 7:15 the following morning, I sent a single encrypted message to my lawyer, Diane. 2 words, release everything. She responded with a thumbs up emoji. That tiny icon felt heavier than a gavel coming down. I set my phone on the kitchen counter and made myself a cup of coffee, listening to the silence in my apartment. It was the last quiet moment I would have for a long time, and I savored every second of it. By 8:03 a.m., the first domino fell. My father's business partner, a man named Gerald who had always called me sweetheart, like my name didn't matter, left a voicemail so frantic I had to listen twice. The IRS is here. They have a warrant. They're taking the computers. What did your family do? Call me. Call me right now. His voice cracked on the last word. I didn't call him back. I wasn't the one who could save him. Then came the wave I hadn't fully predicted. The evidence packages I had compiled weren't just sent to law enforcement. Diane, following my instructions, had also anonymously delivered a curated set of documents to a financial crimes reporter at a major news outlet. I had debated this move for weeks. Public exposure felt nuclear, but I had learned the hard way that this family operated on reputation. They would weather an investigation behind closed doors if their social standing stayed intact. So I removed the doors. At 11:49 a.m., the first article went live. I saw the alert flash on my screen while I was slicing an avocado, and I stopped mid-motion. The headline hit me in the chest. Prominent businessman under federal investigation, family assets frozen amid embezzlement allegations. Below it, a photo of my father at a charity gala last year, his arm around my mother, both of them beaming at the camera like they owned the world. They had for a while. Not anymore. The article named names. It mentioned shell companies in the Cayman Islands. It mentioned pension fund discrepancies affecting over 200 employees. It mentioned family members potentially implicated. The comment section was already exploding with words like arrest, disgusting, and finally. My phone started buzzing with texts from numbers I had blocked but were now getting through on different apps. Relatives. Family friends. People who had attended that dinner and laughed when I hit the floor. They all wanted to know if I was okay. What they really wanted was to know if I was the one who had done this. I didn't respond. I had nothing left to say to any of them. By 2:37 p.m., the situation escalated in a way even I hadn't fully anticipated. My mother's charity organization, a breast cancer foundation she had chaired for 6 years, released a public statement suspending her indefinitely pending an internal audit. The statement was cold, clinical, and absolutely devastating. It turned out that some of the donations she had been so praised for securing had actually been funneled from my father's business accounts. She had been laundering money through a cancer charity. When I read that line in the press release, I actually put my coffee down and stared at the wall for a full minute. I had suspected financial misconduct, but I hadn't found that piece. Someone else had dug it up, triggered by the initial leak. The house of cards wasn't just falling. It was imploding, and every card that dropped revealed something uglier underneath. I thought I would feel guilt. I didn't. I felt a strange, hollow satisfaction, like watching a surgeon remove a tumor you had learned to live with, but always knew was killing you. That evening, my sister Vanessa showed up at my apartment. I wasn't expecting her. I had moved 6 months ago and kept the address hidden, but she had somehow found it through an old phone bill or a desperate detective. I heard her pounding on my door at 8 p.m., her voice already hoarse from screaming. "Open this door. I know you're in there. You ruined my life. I have nothing left. My husband left me. He found out about the accounts. He took the kids and left me. Are you happy now? Are you happy?" I stood on the other side of the door, my hand resting on the cool wood. I could feel the vibrations of her fists. She was crying. Actually crying. The golden child, the one who had everything handed to her, suddenly finding herself with nothing. Her husband had apparently connected the dots faster than I expected. The documents I had sent to the authorities had triggered a cascade, and once the investigators started questioning him, he saw the truth of what his wife had been signing for years. He took the children and filed an emergency custody order the same morning. She was alone, broke, and facing potential criminal charges. I didn't open the door, but I did speak, loud enough for her to hear through the wood. You pushed me off that chair, Vanessa. In front of everyone. For years, you made me believe I didn't deserve a seat at the table. Now you don't have a table to sit at. Or a house. Or a family. Go find a floor of your own. She let out a sound I can only describe as a wail. Then silence. Then footsteps retreating. I didn't watch her leave. I just stood there, breathing evenly, waiting for the next call. The next call came at 10:12 p.m. It was my mother. This time I answered. You've destroyed us, she whispered. Her voice was raw, stripped of the polished tone she used at galas and luncheons. The house is being seized. Your father is facing indictment. The lawyers say there's nothing they can do. All those years we gave you a roof over your head. Food. Clothing. How could you do this? I closed my eyes. I thought about that roof. The bedroom they took away. The clothes they bought me only when relatives were visiting so it looked like they cared. The meals I ate alone in the kitchen while they dined in the dining room, laughing together without me. You didn't give me a roof, I said quietly. You gave me a ceiling I kept banging my head against. And you never noticed the blood. I just built my own house somewhere else. And now I'm making sure yours crumbles the way it should have years ago. I hung up before she could respond. That was a gift I gave myself. The last word. After a lifetime of being interrupted, silenced, and dismissed, I got to end the conversation on my terms. The following day was the public reckoning I had envisioned, but couldn't have choreographed better. Federal agents executed a search warrant at my parents' home. Someone posted a video online that went semi-viral within hours. You could see agents walking out with boxes of documents, the front door of that grand house standing open like a wound. Neighbors stood on their manicured lawns, phones out, mouths hanging open. The same neighbors who had attended my parents' summer barbecues. The same ones who had heard my sister mock me and said nothing. They were all bearing witness now. I watched the video 3 times. On the third viewing, I paused it at the exact moment the camera caught a glimpse of the dining room through the window. I could see the table. That table. The same one where I had been shoved to the floor while everyone laughed. It was still there, surrounded by empty chairs, a silent monument to the moment my life changed. Soon, that table would be auctioned off to pay restitution. Or maybe just seized as an asset. I didn't care. It would never host another family dinner again. By the end of that week, the legal consequences were locked into place. My father was formally charged with multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. The evidence I had gathered over 8 months was so comprehensive that the prosecutor later told Diane they rarely saw such airtight documentation from a whistleblower. My father faced up to 20 years in federal prison. His lawyer was already angling for a plea deal. Vanessa was charged as an accessory. Her bank accounts had been used to wash funds, and her signatures were on documents that she couldn't explain away. She wasn't looking at the same sentence as my father, but she would do time. Even with good behavior, her future was a courtroom, possibly a cell, and a permanent criminal record that would follow her forever. My mother lost everything too. The charity audit uncovered enough to refer her case to the state attorney general. No criminal charges yet, but civil lawsuits were already being prepared by donors who wanted their money back. The country club revoked her membership. Her social circle evaporated overnight. The women who used to brunch with her every Thursday now pretended they had never met her. One of them even posted a public statement about being deeply disturbed by the revelations. The hypocrisy was almost artful. As for me, I cooperated fully with the investigation. I was protected under whistleblower statutes, and Diane had made sure my legal standing was bulletproof before we ever made a move. I wasn't charged. I wasn't even named as a suspect. I was the victim of a toxic family system, now a key witness for the prosecution. The narrative the media spun didn't show a vindictive daughter. It showed a survivor who had found the courage to expose corruption from within. But I knew the truth. This wasn't courage. This was a long, cold, meticulously planned act of revenge. And I had no regrets. 2 weeks after the dinner that started it all, I stood across the street from my parents' house one last time. It had a notice taped to the front door, warning that the property was under federal lien. The windows were dark. The lawn was already beginning to look unkempt. The driveway was empty except for a few dead leaves that had blown against the garage door. The silence of it all was the loudest thing I had ever heard. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photo I had taken on the night of the confrontation, just before I left that dinner forever. It was a picture of the dining room, snapped quickly from the hallway. My sister was mid-laugh, my father was raising a glass, my mother was dabbing her lips with a napkin. I was already on the floor, out of frame. I looked at it for a long moment, then deleted it. I didn't need the picture anymore. The scene was burned into my memory, but it had lost its power. They had turned me into a ghost in my own family, so I became the one who haunted them until nothing was left standing. I put my phone away, turned around, and walked toward the waiting car that would take me to my new apartment, my new life, my new city where nobody knew my name. Behind me, the house sat silent and cold, a monument to everything greed and cruelty can destroy. They didn't just lose me. They lost everything. And I never looked back.